Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And have you or someone you known ever struggled with Kratom addiction? Well, Matt here is the guy you want to speak with. He has something very special, and he developed it all himself, and it's called the Quit Kit. Is that right?
That's correct, the Quit Kit.
All right, sweet. Super simple name, super simple thing that we are trying to do with it. So why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and what the Quit Kit is and how you came about developing it, Matt?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Keegan. Thanks so much for having me on here. So this is the thing. I have a history of encountering substances without going and looking for them, and they just happen upon me. And then I'm like, oh, now I'm just going to do this for a while. And then that becomes a new habit. And I don't know if that's how it is for most people, but Kratom was definitely like this. So by the time I met Kratom, that was about 2 years ago, I had quit cigarettes. I had quit tramadol, which is it's like a low-level opioid. It's a partial agonist. And booze. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't drugging. And for those of you who don't know, Kratom is a partial opioid agonist. It will get you high. It's sold in different concentrations, so there's some things that won't get you very high, but there's some that'll get you massively, through the roof. So how I encountered it, basically, I was living in California. I was just going down to the corner store, and the clerk there said, "Hey, have you tried this thing yet?" And I said, "No, I don't know what that is." He said, "You should try it." And I tried it. And it was just like, boom. All my mental agony, all my depression, all my insecurities, all that stuff was total back burner. And I felt great. But that was, that's not something that should happen naturally. That's not how the brain works. It's like the first step towards an addiction, and that's really how I encountered it, and that's how it started.
Oh man! So you say you met Kratom, and you were offered it at a gas station, right?
Yeah, this was just a corner mart with, chips and soft drinks and stuff, and I had just gone in there for a snack, and I think I was going to look up for some CBD or something, but yeah, he just made a suggestion. It was one of his top-selling items, and it's not like he was out to get me. He was just a generally nice dude. I don't think he understood what he really had on his hands, because even 2 years ago, the awareness about Kratom and the danger of addiction in these newly synthesized extracts, it wasn't as high as it is today. Now it's kind of like people are kind of like figuring out that this stuff is basically dime store heroin.
Yeah, and that's the scary part too, is because it is over-the-counter medication, if you will, and and whenever you put that medication label on it, people go, "Ooh, it can fix things," which means I can take it and it is acceptable. And that's where a lot of the problem lies, right? Because it's socially acceptable. You can get it from a store, so no one's going to bat an eye because you went and bought it legally. And what we really want to dive into is the whole after effect of what does Kratom addiction do whenever you try to get off of it? Because I know for me, alcohol withdrawal sucked. And if I could help anyone through it, I would. But the best thing I can do is say, go get medical advice and help. But Kratom withdrawals are totally different in some regards, but it's still something that is extremely difficult to kick. Am I correct? Yeah, because Kratom, if you've chronically abused Kratom, you've been artificially stimulating your opioid receptors for a long time. And not just your opioid receptors, but all of the byproducts of doing that. So when you take an opioid agonist, what that means is that the active ingredients in whatever drug you're taking bind to the opioid receptors and activate them. And this sets into like a flurry of events into motion, one of which is your dopamine regulation and your dopamine receptors. So you take an opioid, and it binds to your opioid receptors, and suddenly you're flooded with dopamine. And this is the funny thing about opioid addiction. This is, you can sit on the couch doing nothing of import, and your body is flooding you with this reward feeling of like,
oh man, your life is good. But those are feelings that are normally reserved for like, the birth of a child, or catching the gazelle in the wild, or landing that big promotion or whatever, and your body's like, you really deserve to feel this good. It does not normally make you feel so good to just sit and do nothing on a Wednesday night on demand, right? So one of the things about that regarding withdrawals is your brain knows this. Your brain knows that this is fake. So it starts to store less dopamine, focus on dopamine here, because you've been artificially stimulating its release for so long. So it's like, all right, this isn't natural. We're going to keep less of it so it's less impactful. At the same time, we're going to downregulate the dopamine receptors so that even the lesser amount that you do get released doesn't hit as hard, quote unquote. And that's doubly bad when you quit the drug all of a sudden. Like, say tomorrow you quit. Well, you now have less dopamine than a healthy brain, and you now feel dopamine less than a healthy brain. You're screwed on two fronts, and you know that the best way to get rid of that uncomfortable feeling is to take more of the drug.
Yeah. Ouch. And sounds exactly like the alcohol addiction.
Yeah, tell me. I'd love to hear, if you don't mind sharing.
Oh, it was basically the exact same thing, except I was both feeling good and at the same time feeling absolutely miserable. It was a very strange combination because I was also actively drinking to try and kill myself. But at the same time, while I was drunk, it was like, you know what, this is manageable. This is bearable. I can live with like this. But if I was somewhat on the sobering side, then it was like, oh, I have to get something. But I was at the place where I didn't want to drink more. But if I didn't, I was non-functioning. I was sick. And I would be sitting there shaking within probably a couple hours of my last drink,
Really?
And it was bad. It was terrible. I'm extremely grateful that I'd never hurt anyone with anything in some regards, but the thing is that the addiction process sucked because it morphed as I went along too, because it started off as a joy and then it came to be the thing that solved all my problems, and then it became the thing that became the problem. And so I already knew how to fix problems, so I just didn't have enough alcohol, right?
I see the algebra there.
Yeah.
The addiction math is always like, yeah, that would make sense, except the other people are like, no.
I had to go get medical help because alcohol detoxes can kill people, and that's kind of what kept me in this weird loop. I decided, well, I'll try to manage it because I can at least enjoy it, and if I'm sober, I'm miserable. But whenever it came to actively quitting, it took a lot for me to actually say I wanted to quit. What made it to where you wanted to quit?
Well, I look at my addictions as steady precipices, where you start...
Precipice.
Yeah, precipice. The Latin. It's like I connected a lot with what you said about your experience with alcohol in the beginning, because in the beginning for me, booze was this thing that lowered my inhibitions to the point where I didn't feel insecure being in social situations that I felt like I had no business being in because everybody else was way cooler than me, and it was just a shortcut to not feeling that discomfort, that mental anguish. So. And then it became this cool thing you could do in social occasions to make it turbocharged with fun. So in the beginning, alcohol was just like, hey, this is awesome. We love this. And then you keep going in your life and those social occasions disappear. They're not very often. You become better at being around people, or you don't care about not fitting in anymore. And if you keep drinking, your relationship with the drug changes to, well, what other problems can it solve? And it's like, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It actually makes you dumber, slower, less healthy. You start to fit in less. You start to be less of the person that you wished you were when you started taking it. And tramadol, cigarettes, Kratom, it's all kind of the same story. They step in at a point in your life where you're not expecting, and they say, hey, try us, we're going to make things better. And so that first part, before you start down the slope, is you feel great. Like, there's a reason you kept taking it. But then your reasons for taking it change from fitting in or being less insecure to like, oh, it's just a Sunday and I'm reading. And wouldn't it be a little better if I had some Kratom? And then it's like, whoa, that's different. Suddenly things are different. And you keep doing that. And your brain says, all right, well, you just woke up. Why not take some Kratom? It would be better. The sun's up. It's a beautiful day. Take some Kratom. Okay, well, that's new. And then your day gets pockmarked with all of these reasons to use that you have no right using for. And it doesn't at all resemble what you started with. And I am aware of this, right? And it's like it reaches a critical mass where suddenly I'm like, hey, man, this is not the right way to live your life. You're taking essentially a pill or a drink to be happy. This is not normal. You need to quit. And then it's like, oh, suddenly you feel like you're looking all the way back up at the cliff that you came up from or came down from. And it can be really terrifying because you think, I don't know how to get back up there. I don't know how to get back up to where this was not my normal thing. And that's one of the reasons why quitting it's, I think, 90% mental, and then 10% it's absolutely physical. That's where Quit Kit comes in, and it helps you with the withdrawals. But it's like, if you're not ready to quit, you're not going to quit. But as soon as you are ready to quit, really, truly, you can do it. And I swear to God, anyone who's listening and wondering, just look at me, man. I had four addictions, dude. I did it. Keegan did it. And I mean, we're special, but we're not. We're just two guys. You can do it too.
Yeah, and that was beautifully said. And just, you encapsulated that whole relationship with addiction perfectly, because it really is just like, you know what? The sun is up. That was a great reason. Thanks for that, Matt. My brain needed another reason. It doesn't need reasons, right? It just goes, blank spot. This fits. Perfect. Seriously, and I do want to reiterate what he said. If you're struggling with it, if you think that you can't, you can seek support. It is a huge mental game. I have quit cigarettes before. Unfortunately, I vape now. But that is the next one to quit, is vaping. But I can say, having quit cigarettes for 2 years, it is definitely a mental game. Yeah. Because it's the first 3 days it's in your system getting out, and then after that it's all in your head.
Yep. Nicotine dissipates from your bloodstream so quickly. It's remarkable. Alcohol, it's not anywhere near as fast as nicotine, which is one of the reasons why you want to smoke so much. It's like nicotine's already gone. It's so quickly, like 45 minutes later, it's all gone. And well, not all gone, but the part that got you high and scratched that itch is gone, and you just need another one. And addictive drugs they're just so beguiling in the way that they can manifest. Cigarettes, you can smoke all day long and still be clear of mind and be able to have conversations and go places and to do things. You start drinking in the morning, by the afternoon, you're not able to do very many things, and you take pills, pain-killing pills, you take them throughout the morning. It's like by the afternoon, you can't really do much at all. But they all just scratch this itch that they've created in your head, and it's like, it's up to you to do what to do with that. And that's kind of hard to deal with, man. You're like, I'm just trying to get better. And your brain's like, no, you need to scratch this. It doesn't matter what you'll be like by the afternoon. And it's like, yeah, that mental game can be pretty tough.
So would you say that is your root cause, that little itch that you're always feeling?
That's an interesting point. My root cause. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, okay, I'll get deep with you. Get deep with you, man.
Okay.
Throughout my adult life, I have always felt like I was not in the right place or doing the right thing with my life, existentially speaking. And I'll go to a different country. I used to live internationally. I'd spend a year in a different country at a time and meet amazing people and whatever, but it was never what my brain told me was the right thing. So imagine going through your 20s and then into your 30s, and it's like every day, all day, my subconscious is yelling at me like, hey, what are you doing here? Or where are you going? Or you don't know. Why don't you know? You should know. Everybody else knows. Hey, figure it out. What are you doing? And it's like, shut up. And the only way to reliably shut those voices up artificially was to use a drug. Alcohol was great for like the 3 hours before sleep. But then the rest of the day, you're like, oh, you mess up. What are you doing with that? And I think that's my root cause. My root cause is existential dread. And I know that might sound hokey, but I swear to you, it's not. It's so tough to deal with. When you're just walking around with that voice in your head that's chastising you every single day.
Yeah, that's rough, man. Thank you for opening up, because I struggle with that too.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is something that sometimes it makes me feel like I'm an imposter, you know? Sometimes it's kind of like I don't really... part of me is like, sometimes I'll get those feelings and those urges again, and it's like, oh, I already fought it, and I should be past that. But it's like, no, I'm human. But I look at people that have like 16 years of recovery, and I'm like, oh, how do they get that far? Like 16 years is like they know all these secrets. and I ask them, like, how do they do it? And it's literally just one day at a time. But I'm sitting here and I fight those same thoughts, those same feelings. Just I look at people around me and it's like, man, they have all their life together. They have this going, they got that, and I'm sitting here looking at my backstage and it's like shambles over here, shambles over there, and I can't sometimes make sense of left and right. But whenever I do find a way to quiet those voices naturally, it's so nice.
Yeah.
And I can say that sometimes that comes through connection. I'm
with you, man.
Yeah. So
yeah, really, truly. I think these sorry.
No, go ahead. No, the floor is yours. The floor is yours. This is your episode.
It's like two sides to it. Like, I love to hear that because it makes me feel less alone, but at the same time, I don't want anybody to go through the suffering that, we go through. And lately I've been getting really, really into the subject of mental mastery, where it's like, yeah,
interesting.
There's I think this stems from my studies into addiction, which brought me into Quit Kit, which helped me, throughout my life. This helped me get over cigarettes and tramadol and alcohol and now Kratom. But it's like you have two voices. One is always talking to you, and the other one is on mute, but it's talking to the one who's always talking to you. That's your conscious and your subconscious. And if David and Goliath were a metaphor here, your conscious is David without a sling, and your subconscious is Goliath. And it's like, you're going to do what I want you to do eventually until it's convinced otherwise. So we can, let's talk about it in terms of addiction. In terms of addiction, and if you're just starting out with a drug and you're at the top of that precipice I mentioned, your conscious brain is like obsessed with it. It's like, oh my gosh, what does it taste like? How do I use it? Where do I get it? How often can I take it? This feels amazing. What does this feel like? What is it? And your subconscious, because it's new, is taking notes. This is not me making this up. This is actually psychiatric evaluations. This is like in the medical literature, is essentially taking notes and filing your experience with the drug under one of two columns. It's either this brings me pleasure or this causes me pain. And you take the drug for the first time, you have no idea what consequences you're getting yourself into down the road. So your subconscious is like, okay, amazing. We're good. This is under the pleasure column. And then it doesn't come back and revisit its notes. And this is because human beings are so intelligent that they get in their own way. It takes an immense amount of mental energy to engage in a new experience and judge whether or not it's painful or pleasurable or how to do it and where to get it and whatever. And the subconscious is like, we're a whole factory. We got trillions of cells. We need to be busy. We can't afford this right now. I'm going to file this away and then put you on autopilot for it. And that's how we develop habits. That's why habits take place, and you don't think about the cars that are going by you when you're driving. It's like you had an immense amount of mental energy when you were learning to drive. Now you have barely any. And it's kind of the same with drugs. And the first few times you're like, whoa, like you're in rapture about the experience you're in. And then by the 30th, no, in Kratom, you're just driving to the gas station. You know where it is. You know who the guy's selling it to. You know how much it's going to cost. You know where to put the thing. You know what it's going to taste like and whatever. All you're doing is waiting for that release. And that's because your subconscious is like, we're busy. So by the time that you want to quit, your conscious brain is the one that's trying to convince your subconscious. Now it's like, hey man, my life's falling apart. I don't have any money. I'm being private. I'm keeping secrets. Like, nothing is going well. And meanwhile, your subconscious is like, I'm running a factory here. Like, I'm busy. I don't have time to go back to this. So you have to show it an immense amount of an overwhelming amount of evidence to undo the notes that it took in the beginning, to like overwrite them. And that's where I've been focusing a lot of my mental energy. Like, if I can find a way to create a protocol for that, to help people get their subconscious back in the conversation, oh man, there's a gold mine in there of support and love and just escape from suffering in there. And I know I'm not the only one. Like, people have been studying this for centuries, but okay, I said a lot, but I think that's a huge part about the way I was able to escape my addictions, is just by engaging and re-engaging my subconscious. Okay, I feel kind of silly I said all that stuff, but
No,
are you with
that's
me?
awesome. That is awesome. I'm totally with you. Because that is a really interesting way to lay it out. Because I've always been a fan of the dual consciousness theory, and it's very much essentially, like you said, one consciousness can speak, the other one cannot. And it is conscious and subconscious in another shell. And so I love the way that you laid it out, because it really is where my subconscious goes, oh yeah, that was good, I like it, and it literally will just run with it. And it's just gone. And it's like, all right, bye. And trying to call it back is like, the street lights never turn on whenever I was a kid, right? Like,
It's amazing.
were you young enough? Well, not young enough, or is it old enough? Either way, whenever I was a kid, it was like, hey, I'm going to go play outside, and it was like, hey, be home whenever the streetlights come on. And it's like, the streetlights never come on, so that little guy's never coming back home. And so that's how it is for me, because I had to. For me, it was. My eureka moment came, well, in multiple ways. My steps literally fell into a near-death experience. That's where my turnaround happened. But it sounds like your turnaround happened and is mostly happening on the subconscious level actively. Like, you're actively going towards your subconscious, going, hey, come here. Like,
like a carrot in front of it.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting that you're talking about it this way, because it does really kind of speak that addiction has a mind of its own.
Wow. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Truly.
Because I've always described addiction as the disease of choice, because I start with the choice to use or drink, and then I lose the choice. That's where the disease comes in. And it's a paradox, because the way out of it is to make that choice that I want help, because I can't do it alone. Or at least I personally couldn't. And that came in the form of I was going to die. But whenever your Kratom addiction was really at its rock bottom and you found yourself looking up at that person that you thought you were at the top of that cliff, that feeling coming to yourself is a weird feeling, right? Because in a sense, it was like, oh yeah, that is me, but that was me. And it was that longing that I lost who I was that I really wanted to get back, you know?
That's fascinating. It's so strange how we take these drugs to improve some failing we perceive about ourselves. And then when we become addicted to the drug, all we want to do is get back to the person that we were before we started taking the drug.
Yeah.
And when you get there, you realize you weren't that bad.
No.
You had insecurities, but you were, like, chances are you were a pretty good guy. And you had a lot to offer people. And everybody else saw it. You know, one of the things you learn from people who love you, even when you're going in and through addiction, is like they know who you were before the drug, and they still love that person very much.
Yeah,
and it's like the drug refuses to let you remember that. The drug says, "No, you need me to be better," and then you can make the mistake of thinking that that's your own voice. I mean, like, no, I'm sober is worse. This might be bad, but sober is worse. And then you sober up and you're like, whoa, I was way worse when I was trying to get high all the time. Like, I see what they see in me. You know, when you're able to see in yourself what they saw in you, that's a huge part of being able to accept that sober life is superior to intoxication.
Yeah, and it does take a lot of work on literally everyone's part. And I say that because the people that stick with us while we're in active addiction, holy cow, that is a lot of mental strength and a lot of gymnastics they have to do themselves. And it is something that I'll forever be grateful for, everyone that has stuck through. And even the people that are like, hey, you're better now. How are you? It's like, yeah, I don't blame you for not wanting to practice for 10 years. So, like, I was not the best guy for decades, so let's just forget that happened. But whenever you found yourself in withdrawal from Kratom, it's one of those things that, like, let's put it this way. Whenever I found myself in withdrawal from alcohol, it would happen quickly because I was so used to having it in my system. And so I was, people described me as a high-functioning alcoholic, which I, like, hate having to say that, but it's part of my past, right? And for me, those withdrawals would happen quickly, and they would go away as soon as I would grab the bottle. That my withdrawals would go away because my brain was like, it's here. Release. But then I would take my first shot, whatever, and my body was actually rejecting it. And I would have to force it, and then after that, nope, it was back to the games.
Yeah, like jump that hurdle, and your body's like, all right, fine.
Yep, and that was near the end. And by near the end, I mean probably the last 3 years. So for your Kratom addiction and withdrawals, how would those affect you through the day? Because I had to really essentially keep a steady supply of liquor somewhat nearby. But that was the thing, is that the withdrawal was bad enough to where I had to stay active in my addiction. You know, were your withdrawals that bad as well? Because I know that they're painful, but were they something that kept you in addiction too? You know?
Yeah, mine didn't onset quickly. It was more like molasses. It would be like you wake up in the morning and you'd be like, I'm good. I don't need to use today. I'm clean today. And then your cravings kick in about an hour later, and then they really swing in like 2 or 3 hours after you've woken up. And this is when you're making up excuses to go get coffee. And you're like, oh, I'll just go out and get some coffee. And then you come back with coffee like an extra 20 minutes. But look, if I really wasn't going to use that day, the cravings would turn into a steady descent into a pit of emotional darkness that I could not come back from. It would just be, I could feel it visiting upon me. Like I could feel it coming in. And the terror in response to that was real, because you're like, my world is about to change. And when it's a mental game like that, and it's less about, like, you can't sit still, even though that's a thing, but the depression, man, the complete inability to be a part of the world, that would come in about 4 hours after I woke up, and it would be with me for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then subside, and then come back an hour or two later. This is the kind of thing where I had to get up and get in my car and drive and listen to sad music and just bawl my eyes out, and just at traffic lights, like, people here, and I'm just crying, and they're looking at me. I'm like, a 39-year-old man alone crying in his RAV4 blasting some song from his youth, and it's just like, I don't know when this is going to stop. I don't know when it's going to let up. And that's also one of the worst parts, is because it's like you're lost in the wilderness when you're in these mental withdrawals. You don't know when you're going to find your way out of the forest. You're just holding out your light, looking for something, and that's an incredibly desperate feeling. That's how it was, man. That's definitely how it was. Until I invented the Quit Kit, but that's a whole other story. Because I tried to quit twice before Quit Kit, and it sucked.
And that is why I was asking you about all that, because you invented the Quit Kit for withdrawals. And real quick, I want to say thank you again for being vulnerable and like that, because it takes a lot. And I know it does, because I'm right there with you, and that you said it very well, the terror of withdrawals and knowing that everything was about to change, trying to get sober. I never really thought about it like that, but yeah, it was a terror that my world is about to change if I stay sober.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, I never really thought about it. It's kind of like in Lord of the Rings, where Sam and Frodo stop walking for a little bit.
Let's go. I was just thinking something similar, like kind of a descent into Mordor.
Yeah.
Mordor/hell, like Doom,
But with the withdrawals, they suck. And there's not a lot people can do about them, right? Or so we thought. And you invented the Quit Kit. So what is the Quit Kit, and how does it work, and what does it do?
Thank you. And so this came about because I'm a chemical engineering background. I didn't want to go get an opioid-based prescription to manage withdrawals and then enter into a 9-month tapering thing with Suboxone. I just wanted to get, I just wanted to see if I could do it effectively without a prescription and a doctor visit. Quit Kit. Okay, I didn't know this at the time, but there is a voluminous amount of literature out there, clinical trials from universities all around the world that have studied how this chemical, common over-the-counter chemical, compound, supplement, combats this array of opioid use withdrawal symptoms. And these studies were conducted because they had similar interests as me, like, is there another way other than these prescription medicines, medically assisted treatment programs? So they studied it, rats, mice, and humans. And so I delved into these studies, and it's like, oh yeah, there's stuff I can buy on Amazon right now that'll help with this stuff in a very specific way. And yeah, I was shocked. But it made sense chemically. Like I said, chemical engineering background. So I looked at the way that these chemicals reacted and the way they interact with the biology of your nervous system. It's like, okay, so this sounds really promising. And I bought the supplements in a specific regimen. I said, okay, I have these withdrawals in the morning, these in the afternoon, and these in the nighttime. Specifically like lethargy, no motivation in the morning, cravings and restlessness in the afternoon, and an inability to sleep well at night and relax. So it's like, okay, well, these studies show that these supplements fight those kinds of withdrawals. It's like, okay, I got 5 in the morning, I got 5 in the afternoon, I got 5 in the nighttime. And I spent like $200 to $300 getting all these things together. And I said to myself, hey man, you know you're ready to quit. Like you're ready. You know, I was suicidal, man. I was so broken mentally. I was so freaking done, man. I was like, you're going to take this jump. And the first day I used Quit Kit was the last day I used Kratom. And by the third day, I'd quit. I had momentarily forgotten that I was quitting a drug. It's like, what miracle had I stumbled upon? And the way it does it, so the way it works in all these studies, they focus on the chemical imbalances that arise from chronic opioid use disorder and what happens when you suddenly stop taking the drug. And it's like, basically, if you imagine a circuit panel and you open it up and all the wires are frayed and like blowing up, that's your brain when you stop taking opioids after a long time. And it will repair the wiring. It's just going to take some time. There are ways you can help. So early in the interview, we had talked about dopamine and how through chronic abuse of opioids, you have less dopamine and downregulated dopamine receptors. Well, you can buy something called levodopa. It's the precursor to dopamine. And you can...
Levodopa?
Yeah, levodopa. Are you familiar with it?
Okay. No, it rings a bell, so maybe I've heard it.
Okay. Yeah, levodopa, sometimes it goes by L-dopa. Essentially, it comes from a plant, Mucuna pruriens, and they take it and you catalyze the precursor to dopamine, and then it enters your nervous system and it replenishes the supply. So it's an exogenous influx of dopamine when your brain needs it most. And when you wake up in the morning, for example, and you don't want to do anything because you have no dopamine, this is a really effective tool to get you out of bed, motivated, and go out about your day. And I mean, there's just a host of other things in there from the morning to the afternoon to nighttime. But the whole point of the Quit Kit is to rebalance your neurochemistry. It is a helping hand for your brain. Literally. It is the thing that steps in and says, we got to get to this point. I got your back. We're going to help rebalance this. That's what it was designed for.
Okay, so the Quit Kit. So first off, where can someone get this?
You can get it from tryquitkit.com. Again, that's tryquitkit.com. You can also email me directly at Matt, M-A-T-T, at tryquitkit.com if you have any questions.
Okay, sweet. So everyone out there, if you're watching, it's on the bottom of the screen, tryquitkit.com. And if you're listening, one more time, tryquitkit.com.
That's it. That's the one.
You need a nice little jingle with it.
Yeah, maybe I'll write one tonight.
I mean, it's just a few syllables, a couple of notes or something. Yeah.
That's Reading Rainbow.
.com. Yeah, you can do it.
Quit Kit.
But whenever we're talking about the dopamine, I love how you were talking about the wanting to get out of bed because it's battling a depression aspect. And that depression aspect is something that can go past withdrawals too, right? So you're not just sitting there and essentially saying, oh, if you do this, it's going to say, oh, you're fixed. It's saying, here, this is going to help you get through your withdrawals and give you essentially building blocks to keep going later, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing was to reduce the fear of getting sober. Just reduce the fear so that you can accept the beauty of not having to rely on a substance to turn on an emotion. I mean, there's true beauty there. And if you can get an advantage, wear some armor, then try the Quit Kit or learn about the ingredients on the Quit Kit website if you don't want to get the Quit Kit. It's all there. You can pick and choose as you want. But yeah, I think just give yourself an advantage. There's no reason not to.
What all is in the Quit Kit? If you can choose, I didn't realize I could choose my own kit.
Well, no, I meant, I'm sorry. I meant there's 12 ingredients. You could buy them individually on Amazon, or you can get them parceled out into the morning, afternoon, nighttime regimen, which is specifically tailored for these kinds of withdrawals. I'm just saying that I encourage you to learn, and all the information is there.
I love that, because that is really showing that you just want to help people. And
yes, absolutely.
One of the other things that I'm loving right now is that you've offered your email for people to reach out to you. And I think that aspect right there is going to do a whole lot more for someone, because they know that they're not alone dealing with a kratom addiction and trying to get through it. And because a lot of people fell into it because it just fixed things, and now we're sitting here with a bunch of people that are going like, well, I have to get this, otherwise I'm not going to feel okay, and my boss doesn't like me if I'm not feeling okay.
Oh my God, yeah, right.
So you have this cycle where people are probably getting stuck in it, and they don't even realize that they're addicted because they don't have a failing job, they don't have a failing marriage, they don't have bad problems. So it's not an addiction, but it very well could be, And that's one of the things, too, is that it can be not prescribed. It's, we said earlier, people like to just describe it as medicine, but it is not. And with that being said, you've essentially created an antidote regime.
I like that. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because, you're not just sitting there and saying, quit this because it's bad. You're saying, hey, if you're having a problem with this and you need help, this is where you go. This is what you can do. And with the Quit Kit, what was the hardest aspect developing it, though, for yourself? And then spreading it for everyone else?
Well, developing it for myself, that was just time and putting in the energy to finding out what would work for which times of day. So I can't say that was particularly difficult, and maybe that's just due to my background and my familiarity with doing cold research, but there was the way that Quit Kit actually started entering the larger universe from just this one guy. Once I quit, I was just wrestling for weeks. Like, do I give this to how do I give this to anybody else? Is it right to give this to anybody else? What do I have all these leftover supplement pills? And I went on to Quitting Kratom subreddit, and I was, chronicling my journey there and trying to offer support to people. And eventually I just started talking about what I took, and I connected with people. And I was like, if you want what I took, I'll just send it to you. Like, no, if you give me $5 for shipping, and I did for 6 people, and the results were positive. And then I got brought on to the Kratom Sobriety podcast, which is a very niche podcast, but very influential in the Kratom addiction community. And I just said, look, if you want one, I'll give it to you for free, 50 free Quit Kits. And 6 weeks later, I'd sent out 50 free Quit Kits, and the results were like overwhelmingly positive. So now I can't do free because it's actually quite expensive to get these things together. But that was basically proof that it wasn't just me, and it wasn't just the 6 people I found on Reddit, but this thing actually really works. And for anybody who's considering it, I will say it's free shipping and a money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work, I'll be really sorry about that, but I'll totally eat the cost. I would refund your money. I don't want to put any burden on you whatsoever for I just want this to be a thing that changes your life. That's it. Pure and simple. No risk.
That's way too cool. And I mean, that really is way too cool, because that is the kind of thing that is going to help people. And that's what this world needs, you know? Yeah. And I want to say real quick, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. You know, I really don't think you are, because I feel that you're, I wouldn't say you're downplaying it, but you're not saying to yourself that you did a great job because you made it through your addiction like you did. You know, like you created something that helps people through the hardest times of your life, right? And so you have all of that experience, you have all that money, you have all that time that is literally went into the quick hit. And it is something that is overwhelmingly positive for over... how many kits have you sold? Real quick.
Oh, I don't have the hard number right now, but we're approaching 200 in just in the past few months. So
that is way too cool, because that is over 200 people that are getting help over their Kratom experience, you know? And just one person in their life, just one
would have been enough.
Just one. So you've got like an actual list of people that you've helped. That is way too cool. So give yourself some credit a little bit, man. Like, you should have like a plaque behind you, like a neon light, like the quick hit.
You know what? Maybe I should get that. I really can't thank you enough for saying that, man. And thank you, man. I thank you. I'll just say thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. That means a whole lot to me.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things that I don't think people give themselves enough credit, especially whenever they fight addiction, whenever they, I shouldn't say fight addiction, whenever they overcome addiction, whenever they triumph with their mental health, whenever they just make it to another day sometimes. That is enough to say, I did all right, you know. Sometimes I don't do that enough. And I can definitely tell that it's something the world needs everyone to do a little bit of. Just pat yourself on the back here and there. And, like, for me, I'm sorry, I'm just way too ecstatic that you're doing this and you're helping out so many people, because also, like, you did the cold research, you spent $200 to $300 on your own, like, experiments, and, like, let's just call them what they are. They were experiments, scientific experiments. And so you just did all this awesome work, and you've just created you again.
Wow.
I don't know if you've recognized that. You've recreated yourself in what you're doing.
You know what? I don't know if your daytime job is a psychotherapist, but you should definitely look into that, man. You have a way with words, man. You really do.
That's actually what I'm going to college for in the next couple of semesters. So
okay, because I was just
I'm a copier technician. I'm a copier technician. So
well, you should. I think. Well, first of all, again, thank you, but the way that you can be kind with your voice and your energy, and the way that you interview people, you know, that if we could magnify that in the world, it would be so beneficial, and just make people remember all the good things about them, man. Because one thing that I think addicts can see when they see someone else come out of it is like, dude, you are a rock star. Meanwhile, they'll still have all this internal self-doubt and criticism or whatever that they're still turning around. It's like, but I think we need to hear it from other people that, oh, maybe we did do a good job. Like hearing you say that, I'm still kind of like, it's hard to accept all the nice stuff. That's just who I am. But it feels amazing to hear it. And someone who's willing to give that kind of energy to the world needs to have the biggest platform possible. So go get that dream, man. Get that cert. Get in front of people and make the world a better place.
Man, I'm definitely trying, but we're doing it together.
We're doing it together right now. Hell yeah, man.
And so we can't do it alone. So everyone that is watching and listening, please check out thequitkit.com because it will change whoever's life is dealing with Kratom addiction. And it's okay if you're the person dealing with it because, I mean, I was an alcoholic really bad for 10 years and I also dabbled with other stuff. So no shame here, you know. But I really do think that you're doing a great thing for the world, and I just want to say just keep with it, you know, like keep it going, and you're doing the thing, man. You're doing it.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, I don't know how else to say it besides you're doing it, because there's like, you know, who is it? Charlie Sheen, not Charlie Sheen. The character from Parks and Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's got that crazy.
Oh, Charlie. Yeah. When he's trying to connect it all.
Yeah, I know that in our minds, probably in your mind, or in an addict's mind, there's like 3 of those boards going all the time, and somehow they make sense, but it doesn't feel like it does. And so I just want to tell you that I can see the work that you're doing inside your own head whenever no one else is there. And I just want to say you're doing a great job. You're keeping the lights on. You're waking up in the morning. You're winning the day. So, man, just keep it up.
Thank you, man. That's amazing. Dude, this is, wow. Just made my whole week.
Well, I'm sure you've made over 200 people's lives. So that is way too cool. And you've made my day. So thank you very much.
Let's go. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Keegan's the guy. Keegan is a good guy.
And Matt, you're an even better guy.
Cheers.
Real quick, for everyone at home, I didn't want to butcher your last name.
Oh, yeah, I know. My whole life, it's von Boecklin.
Boecklin.
Yeah, just drop the O. Boecklin.
Okay. Because I was about to be like Boecklin.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, I've butchered too many names in the past. I'm not about to do it now. So, Matt von Boecklin.
Boecklin, yeah, von Boecklin, that's me.
Well, it is such a pleasure to meet you, and I have to say real quick, do you think we could see you in the future on the show again?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Sweet. Because it's one of those things that we've talked about the Quit Kit, and we've talked about our addictions a little bit, but we've only really touched the surface, you know? So I don't mind diving into some deep rabbit holes, getting into some feelers. So
cool. Absolutely. I'm game for it. Yeah, I think there's a lot more that we can dig into, and hopefully it's useful to the people who are listening. And I want to say again to whoever's listening, you really can email me, matt@tryquitkit.com. I talk with people who are in the dark about this stuff and they feel alone, and it's like, you are so not alone. You're not. So please kindly email me if you want to. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And I mean, that is just way too awesome to put your email out there on the internet for literally anyone to email you. And not only on the internet, but on radio and TV, because you do realize that this is going to air over the nation, right? Like, we're going to make sure people with Kratom people with Kratom addiction they're going to know about the Quit Kit now.
Yeah.
So.
Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah.
That is way too awesome. But Matt, we are at the end of this episode, so we've got to cut it here. But do you have any last words for the people at home besides you're not alone?
Yeah, I do real quick. If you are struggling and you're trying to quit and it isn't quite taking, the one piece of advice that I could give is quit different. So if it didn't work one way, quit a bit different the next way. If that doesn't work, it's so okay. Just make a habit out of breaking your habit. And in order to do that, one of the best ways you can do it is to just try something new each time. Make it unique, and then one of these times is going to be the last times.
Yeah. Heck yeah, dude. I love that, because that is how you do it. Because it literally is just trying something different.
Yeah, and one of those times, it's going to be the last one. It will be.
Yep. And I've got one question for you. Do you know a little number that someone can call if they're having suicidal ideations or any other kind of mental crisis?
You mean my phone number, or?
No, I mean, if you want to put it out there.
No,
but
I'm not qualified for that.
Yeah, I was talking about the National Suicide Hotline, or actually National Suicide Crisis Hotline.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought you were referring to. I just wanted to clarify. Yeah, that would be a good hotline to call, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
It is 988. So if we can teach our children how to call 911 in the case of an emergency, why don't we teach our friends and loved ones how to dial 988?
988. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the thing. It can be bad breakup. It can be suicidal ideations. It could be, you got to be on your report card. Call 988.
988. It's there for a reason.
Yes, sir. All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much, Matt, for being on the show today. And everyone out there, remember, tryquitkit.com.
That's right.
It's right there at the bottom of the screen. Tryquitkit.com. You can do it. Thank you, Matt, for being on. And everyone, thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, much love. See you next week. Shalom.
Take care. Wow.